again, my name is Cheryl. I'm here today to share my testimony. I'm going to try to make it what God wants. My father was a minister as well. There was an event that happened to me. My father took me, we had to go to the restroom. So he took me upstairs and, you know, like I said, a daughter loves her father, daddy's girl. So I remember this day, and it stuck out to my mind, even as an adult. I went to the restroom. I remember him helping me, and when I got finished, I was going downstairs, like I said, daddy's little girl. And he picked me up and was getting ready to go downstairs, so I thought. And he stopped by my grandmother's room, and as vivid as I'm standing here today, I can see it. And he asked me a question. Now, I'm young. He said, "Do you love Daddy?" And I said, "Yes." So he smiled at me, I smiled back. And I'm thinking, now he's getting ready to put me down in this. So, you know, you get ready to get put down and get in this motion. But we stopped, right? And he did something that I did not understand, but I remember. I don't know why the Lord let me remember this, but he stopped at the waist and made a movement that I wasn't aware of at the time because I was a child. And all I know is he did it with a smile and proceeded to take me downstairs. So I guess the enemy wasn't through because I was on my front porch and I had to be about 12. And I had a short set on. It was a nice sunny day like today. It was warm. It's summer. This young man was walking down the street. And he smiled at me and I smiled back. And he said hi. He said hi. So I'm thinking he's going to keep on walking. He stops. He comes back. He walks up my little walkway. He starts down at the bottom of my stairs. So we began a conversation. I was real friendly, open-hearted. So we talked through the conversation, but then I remember him asking me to come down off the porch and just walk. So I did. I mean, I was doing anything. I didn't feel no danger of any sort at the time, so I did. So we walked around the side of my house, and you know, in my house on 116th, we had grapevines and plum trees in the back, so you know, it was okay. So I was still at home. I was in my comfort zone, so we walked down the driveway. We were talking, casual conversation, and then something happened. He changed. He asked for a kiss, and I wasn't comfortable with that. So we let him know I wasn't comfortable with that, you know, and me feeling uncomfortable, and I want to go in the house. So me proceeding, trying to go in the house, led to him grabbing me, forcing me on the ground, and proceeding to get on top of me. Now, I'm trying to fight back. I don't know this boy. I never met him. So 1,000 things are racing through my mind now. So fear is one. He puts his hand over my mouth, so I couldn't scream. Then he proceeds to rip my shorts, because this was a one-pan suit. So it had buttons on the side to be able to take it off and pull it over your head. So he proceeded to rip my pants loose. And all I'm thinking is, I want my mama. And I don't know, I just say God is good. God has always watched over me. Because my grandmother came out on the porch, on the back porch, and she was calling me. And I couldn't scream. I couldn't say nothing because he was pressing his hand on my mouth, so I couldn't scream. Study trying to get my clothes undone, so he had managed to do that. And I'm studying, and I'm crying, and I'm hoping I begin to pray, and I ask the Lord, Lord, if you just give me the opportunity to get loose, and I can scream and get somebody's attention, I know I can get loose. So my grandmother kept calling me, and it was making him nervous because now the back porch is like where this window is, from where I'm standing, and I'm in this garage on the floor. There are no windows, there's doors. I'm on the ground, so she can't see me. So I guess her voice started getting closer, even though she was still on the front porch. Her voice was getting closer. It made him uncomfortable enough to where I could move. So I got loose. I screamed. I got to the door, and as I'm about to run, he grabs me again. So now he got me in his arms, and now it's different. Now he done pulled a pocket knife out. So as my grandmother calls my mom comes outside. She wants to know what's going on. I remember asking what's going on. You know, why you got my daughter? And I'm crying, so she's in mother mode. You got my baby. So he wouldn't let me go. She told him to let me go, and he told her no. So like I said, I've never been through nothing like this. It was totally scary for me. So as my mother yells for my grandmother to call the police, my neighbor next door, who was like a big brother to my mom, he comes outside and he's like, what's going on? And he was like, you need to let her go. So now he's surrounded. So my cousin coming through the back, because I have family all around me. That was a great thing about growing up too. I had family everywhere. So my cousin's coming up through the backyard because he hears my mom. Now my cousin had picked up a stick. My mom is coming towards him with my neighbor. So he lets me go. Being raised in church, but I went through some things. Me and my mother didn't have the best of relationships after that incident with my father. It became strange. She drank a lot. Most of the time my grandmother watched us. And we were kind of like enemies, if you will. I didn't understand that. She would say things to me that were very hurtful. I didn't understand why, but I knew it was painful for me to hear her. Every time she came in the door, she would never greet me with a smile or a loving hug. So I didn't know what a mother's embrace was. She rejected me. And when I asked her about it as a child, you know, she would tell me to get out of her face. She said to me one day, she said, I put a roof over your head and food in your mouth and clothes on your back. Ain't that enough? So it was things like that. And then when she would get angry at me or think that I was doing something that I had no business doing, or, you know, I had a little brother, so I was always messing with him. So my name, she used the word bitch a lot with me. So that broke down my self-esteem. She told me I would never be nothing, and I was like my father, and I would never grow up to be anything, you know, I would be a nobody, and I was not like her family, and our family was small. I had no one. I lived in a household with my family, but I felt like I had no one. So I cried a lot. My tears, my pillow was my best friend, and my tears were endless. I often would pray to God, because like I said, knowing and going to church every Sunday, seeing my grandmother preach the word, knowing she was filled with the Holy Spirit, because I seen this woman do things that I never seen anybody else do. So living in a household with God, I did not understand why I was being abused. I did not understand how God could let me be the only one be abused. Everybody else was being loved. My brother was favored. He was honored. He was praised. He was all of this. And I always felt like I had to compete. She made me feel that way every day. And I never hated her in that weird. I never hated her. I always still tried to do whatever I could to get her to love me. That's all I ever wanted. And I told her that one day, and she looked at me and she didn't say nothing. Like I said, she would come home from being out and be intoxicated. I didn't even know what that was at the time, but I knew something was wrong with her. I would smell alcohol. She would just go off on me, like I said, would say horrible things to me about my father, compare me to a man. So one day, she picks up the phone and she says, "Come get her, because I can't deal with her no more. I don't want her. She your child, come get her." You know who she was talking to. Next thing I know, the man I haven't seen since I was 3 steps up on my porch to come and get me. And I go, and I'm gonna live with him now. Okay. So, he takes me. He was living with his godparents at the time, and they were ministers as well. Here's my journey with my father. I have to get to know this man. I don't know him. I'm a young girl. Being raised by women now this is different. Because a man is totally different from a woman in disciplining and talking to and dealing with the whole 9 yards. So I was nervous. Because even though he was my father, I still was nervous. But it was okay for a while. I love my godparents. They showed me a lot of love. But my father still had something on him that like I said, I didn't understand. He would put me to bed, take me to school in the morning. I remember him dropping me off, walking me back, come and get me. One particular day I did my homework, because I was raised in a family where we come home, take our clothes off, and do our homework, eat lunch or snack or whatever, and do your homework, and then dinner be ready, and then, you know. So I went through that whole ritual. Then, one night, I got ready for bed. I remember coming out of my godmother's room after talking to her, because she always liked to talk to me. And I remember getting into bed, and I remember him coming in, tucking me in, and I remember going to sleep. And I remember him laying next to me as a comfort, you know, because I didn't like sleeping by myself. So he laid on the opposite side, but it was still his presence being there was comforting. So I remember waking up. Something woke me up. I don't even remember what. But my clothes were wet. And I didn't know, I don't remember peeing on myself. I was too old for that. Now sometimes you have wet dreams. I mean, it happens. But I didn't remember that. But it was in the opposite. It wasn't in the right place. My clothes were wet on my side here. And I didn't understand what that was. And I got up, I went to my godmother's room, and she was asleep, and I woke her up, and I told her that I was wet. She said, "Well, did you have an accident on yourself, baby?" I said, "Auntie, Grandma, I don't know." I called her Grandma. I don't know. So she checked me, and she found the wet spot on my side here. And she looked at the same thing. She said, "Baby, go take your clothes off. Come in the bathroom, we'll find you something else to put on." My father wasn't home. Lord, I changed my clothes, she washed me up. She said, "You gonna come sleep with Grandma tonight." I got in Grandma's bed, and she told my godfather what happened. She didn't tell me. Because my godfather came.